Hello and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast, Cowboy Bebop, the editions that get scratched. I'm one of your hosts, Taylor, and with me is the superlative Sushi B. How you doing?
I was expecting to be called the itch that should be scratched.
Oh, hi. That's if anything, I really am bad about following the path.
I know. You follow your own path.
Yeah, for better and for worse. A lot of times for worse. But
yeah, if I seen that path, I'm not walking on those bush.
on
that bush area. I'll let Taylor discover what's over there. If I hear a scream,
hey, let us know.
If I hear a scream, I'll definitely go the opposite direction.
But yeah, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing
Are you ready to get into an infomercial?
I am ready to get into this
very creepy infomercial.
I have been waiting to talk about this episode. Because this is, to me, feels like another one of those episodes that doesn't get talked about a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not in the circles. But this episode feels like it's a bit of a blind spot for people. It is right there, right before we get into what could effectively be a three-parter.
Yeah.
It's
not only
right. Well, yeah, it's a standalone, but it's also, you've already had a bunch of these creepier episodes, but this is creepy in the sense of less. It's where you had the horror of the creature, the horror of almost the supernatural.
Yep.
Now you have the horror of whatever, the front flipping.
The psychological.
The psychological, and to me, psychological horror I love that kind of stuff. So, I feel like this one just doesn't get into it too much. So, yeah, we're going to get into this. What are some things you like about it there?
Just going back to your point there a second ago, though, it's neat that this kind of pendulum swings, because as you said, the very first horror-esque episode is very much a physical type horror, right, with the space goo.
Well, I guess to be fair, there's also sprinkled in there with Speak for the Devil or Sympathy for the Devil.
Yeah, that's kind of Sympathy for the Devil. Yeah,
Sympathy for the Devil. Yeah, it's kind of got a little bit of,
definitely got a bit of a Twilight Zone edge to it, right? Or it's a bit of a sci-fi horror, but sort of a I don't know. It's kind of a sci-fi horror, I guess that one, sort of. It's somewhat psychological too. And then you kind of get that with the oh my goodness, what's the clown?
Toys in the Attic. Père Lefort.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So that one as well, right? Where it's mostly just like a typical horror of like being chased kind of horror movie, right? Like a slasher movie.
Like a slasher.
Yeah, kind of. But there's still some psychological in there as well. And then this one finally just kind of really delves into that pure psychological aspect of horror. Yeah, sorry. I know that you really appreciate this episode, so I was gonna just kind of throw the reins back to you, actually.
Oh, okay. I guess something I really like in this episode, and it's something we kind of touched on, I think, in some other episodes with like the Punch and Judy bit, is that you have the TV of Big Shot, the show that shows. I feel like a lot of media try to do this where they'll have either a book series or a show or a radio series or something that's within within the story that's almost trying to add another layer because it's reflecting what's going on in the story in a way, which I feel is a lazy way to go about it. This is just showing a different element of just the life and the setting, and we get a lot of that in this episode. We get a lot of TV viewing, and not seeing them watch TV, but almost like we're watching what's going on as well, which adds a nice flair to it that kind of gives it a bit more of a creepiness, especially when you start getting into the brain scratch, or not brain scratch, but just the scratch. The scratch cult.
Right.
And just I know we talked a little bit about it before recording, but like it was the 90s infomercial late at night sort of vibe going through and flicking through the channels and stuff. So we don't have that. We do, but we don't. It's not quite the same when you can just close YouTube or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I think like the 70s, 80s, and 90s television from, I don't know, what would you say, about, I wouldn't quite say midnight. I'd probably say like from 1 o'clock to about, well, at least 4:30 to 5.
Well, if they had it, did they even have that on during like the 70s?
I think that's when infomercials really started to become a thing. I thought was in the 70s. I don't know if it was the late night stuff, but there definitely was daytime stuff.
Well, I'm thinking of the late night.
Well, definitely 80s for the late night.
Yeah, late night stuff. It took a while because there was still a time I remember. Even as a little wee one, where you turn on the TV at like 5:30 in the morning, thinking, "Oh yeah, I can watch some cartoons before school." Nope, no, you're getting static,
right?
Static and noise.
And then you get the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever that would start those channels in the morning and shut them down at night.
Yeah,
so they would play the national anthem or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd get the solid colored bars, or you'd get the snow.
Yeah.
But like I really also appreciate just and it's neat that it's a bit of a time capsule now, because it's not reflective of how media is like television type media is consumed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody watching this, even like say 10 years from now, 15, 20, whatever, will have to kind of go back and try to understand the context of why is this episode laid out this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's quite an interesting way of laying it out for even people who may not have familiarity with what television could have looked like years ago. And this is the kind of stuff you might see actually at night. It's like there will always be somebody shilling and hawking junk.
Well, always, you can still see it now, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
But exercising, why you want to be a DJ? Yeah,
sure. But I think this was so much weirder. Like it was, showing knives cut through steel toe boots, and just like really, the automatic slicer can cut through anything, and people having the bizarre accents and being like, we got to get someone from England because it's a unique accent that people remember when he says 75 times the same word, and like just weird tactics to kind of get people engrossed.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
No, I was just to kind of wrap that thought. Aside from all of those, and then also like the random call in and beautiful men and women are waiting for your call.
No, right.
$4.99. There were always some sort of. They would always claim religious, but you would always be veering off into a bit more of that cultish type, I don't know, presentations, if you will.
We would be remiss not to mention Miss Cleo there, and her wonderful tarot readings.
Oh yeah, they always have psychic readings and stuff. For $8.99, we can dispel your worst fears.
And here's the thing I was going to kind of piggyback off of that. And this is what's so insidious about things, is that was very obvious to know the shysters and the nonsense and that sort of thing. People learn from that, and they've learned some very dark lessons. I mean, think about why things are situated how they are in stores. Why do they conveniently move things around every couple of weeks? Because they've done research into trying to get people to do more things, to buy more, to be into this. But
for sure,
people with a good gut be like, I don't need the Brit from over the pond telling me that I could buy this X-Acto knife.
Brit from over the pond.
Like I don't need the ShamWow guy screaming at me.
I love how those shysters always have to just show the most bizarre situations too. The closest thing I've ever seen was being on a subway in Asia. a guy getting on, because there's always those guys that in the subways too, that literally get on the subway and try to get you to buy something. And he had this wallet and he was like throwing it against the floor to show that it wouldn't, rip or crack. And then he just pulls out his lighter and he's torching the thing. It's the closest scene in person. But, yeah, they always just have to try to make it as bizarre as possible, right? Like showing a steamroller run over, your, I don't know, beer mug, and that it wouldn't be destroyed or whatever.
And they had those extremes because I think part of it is there was only like there were only so many funnels to like go through, right? When there's only so many channels. I mean, I get that there was internet, or not internet, but like whatchamacallit. I mean, it was internet, but not how it is now. But cable. Yeah. So but most people didn't have cable. Like
you were forced to consume this garbage,
right?
If you were up that late.
And even in Japan, you kind of had cable sort of thing. But it's like, why would we spend all this money for all these extra channels we're not going to watch?
Right.
Very practical. Appreciate that. So you have only so many things, so it's like, we need to one up how ridiculous we are, kind of thing. And I mean, you see that now to some degree, but like. The game changes and like it's that sort of ridiculousness is easy to spot. It's more of the we're going to take these ridiculous things but deliver them in a very different kind of manner. That's really, I guess, is my concern of the insidiousness of like how we went from that to what we are now, where it's like like but enough about that. I don't want to derail us into time.
No, I know. But like for this episode, it is an interesting reflection, though, right? And often people that are or were watching TV or up late at night in that way were often people that were looking for something, and so this type of presentation could be very mesmerizing.
That's a great point. The looking for something, because there's a lot of waywardness.
Yeah, like you're just up in the middle of the night because you've got nothing, right? So you're out of sync. You're not in sync with the daylight. You're not in sync with other people. You're looking for something, and these things are popping up in the middle of the night. It's not just it's something consumable, but it's presented to you as if it's an offering. Or it's some kind of a way to be accepted by something or for something.
It's like, I'm going to sell you something you didn't know you needed or wanted.
Kind of, yeah. But as you said, in a little bit more of an insidious manner, and instead of just being spend $30 on a piece of junk, it's done in a much less ethical practice. A lot more scary.
Well, I was going to say, with money comes and goes. Easy come, easy go. But when it's your soul, it's a lot darker.
Yeah. Londis wants your soul. Well, isn't that what the phrase is? Something like give up your soul or something in this?
No, give up your body to free your soul.
Give up your body to free your soul.
Because your physical body is just so impure. Desire, that comes from physicality.
Right.
Like to me, like I just love how dark that kind of dives into, just the physical stuff. Like it plays off of this is hedonism. You don't want to be hedonist. You want to be freed. Right. So like go and enjoy your spirit is the activity of the brain. Like, so you've exactly pinpointed exactly what the spirit is. That's interesting. You're giving me what the answer is for far too long. No path has been clear, the vision of salvation that we now have. Like, these are just like, holy crap.
Yeah, these are some pretty scary thoughts that people will definitely buy into. That seeking affirmation for things and looking for answers.
Well, right, and some people stumble into something silly or what have you, and be like, oh, this works for me, and maybe it's something innocuous, maybe it's something mundane, but if it's not, it can really lead you down a dark path, like Scratch shows you.
Sure.
I also want to throw out, I enjoy seeing that CBC News is anchored by Mark Rather. I always get a kick out of seeing that, but it's just.
I do like that Ein kind of gets a bit of a spotlight in this episode too. It's been on the fringe a little bit, so not only makes a very important save in the episode,
right,
but then unfortunately gets forced into animal testing once again.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that Jet's like, you're an animal, you dream, you'll be fine, when he's relaying to Spike how, it does something with your nervous system that could kind of get you rushed off this mortal coil.
Yeah, and was his previous experience not enough to be like, maybe probably shouldn't put this on anybody on the ship?
Right.
As he was sitting there about to lose his mind and start drooling all over himself.
I don't know where I want to go with this. The really quick sidestep when Jet's giving the details of what they are like, oh, this is Londis, this is what we know about him, sort of thing, to Spike and Ed, because Faye has decided to do this herself and is, the facade of, oh, I'm joining Scratch so I can, free myself from debt. She's there to go after Londis and whatnot.
Right.
There's a point at which, I really like this interaction because it's one that's not spoken, really, but Spike notices Ed dumping milk into whatever they're eating or whatever the food is that they got.
Oh, and then he pours the beer.
And he pours the beer in there, and he's like, he takes a bite and he's like, oh, this is disgusting, but eats it anyways. I'm like, that's a good sign of somebody who's been destitute. I can appreciate that. It's like, well, it's awful, but I'm hungry.
I made a bad choice, and this is all the food I got. So,
right.
Continue to carry on here.
Right.
Hoping that there's some nutritional value
and some good sustenance to keep you going.
Some vitamins and.
So I really liked that little interaction there.
Well, the gross thing about that is that would be a very typical thing that somebody watching these infomercials from that time frame, from 1 to 4:30, might do. Like cereal would definitely be a kind of thing that someone late at night awake and just in that state, cereal would be something you would eat. It totally would be. And for somebody to grab a can of beer and I would not find that weird. You would just you would not normally want to eat that. But again, just being in that state of just.
That's all grain.
Yeah. Like if you're already been drinking or whatever as it is, and alcohol is kind of an escape for you. I could see that being the norm.
The also something that comes up is that Big Shot gets canceled.
Sure does.
And just
low ratings.
Spike through the heart. Low ratings. Who would have thunk it?
Yep.
There's also that mention about how
Judy was not very impressed.
Well, she was not. Gonna talk to her agent about stuff.
She broke character pretty fast.
Right. But yeah, there's a mention of there hadn't been a big bounty in months.
Right.
So you kind of wonder what's going on in the world for that to be the case. has had bountying, had kind of the quote-unquote vigilante justice, if it will, done so much to skew things to kind of calm it all down, or is there a lot more seedier undertones going on there? You know, like is it to where that the syndicates have infiltrated great enough to where they can just kind of buy off all the other problems that they need, and they just kind of, you know, what have you? I mean, Jet's kind of like, hey, these guys have been, the ISSP has been super lazy, finally getting off their butt, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
possibly. Yeah. There's definitely a few possibilities.
Right. So it's not that there's anything concrete, but it does kind of make you wonder what's going on outside of the fact that it is a very, very niche TV show.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking too, were there just so many bounties out there that they had all kind of watered down the prices, if you will, on bounties? So, because they said there wasn't big bounties. So were there just so many, I don't know, people that need to be apprehended, but were the bounties just low as a result because there were just that many individuals that needed to be caught? Like, did they change the rules on what could be considered a big bounty? Like, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of questions and none of them answered. Nope. So, outside of low ratings.
Yeah, Punch being like, oh, we're canceled.
Yeah, low ratings. So, you know, who knows exactly? Maybe the fun has, you know, fun in this carnival ride has come to an end, and you know, I think that kind of plays into it as well, right? Is that there's that moment where, oh, it's super cool to do this thing, and then it's like, well, this isn't nearly as glamorous nor fun as what I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna go do something else.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna go get a real job.
Yeah, but then you would think, that the people that were still out doing that, catching bounties, it would be plentiful then.
Well, but that doesn't mean though that there would be good ratings.
No.
Nor that there would be a big bounty.
No. That's right. The ratings would go down because if you had less eyeballs.
Right.
Either that or just Punch and Judy were bad hosts.
I mean, yeah.
Judy didn't really strike me as being much more than there just as an eye attraction. Yeah. Let's see. And Punch didn't seem like he was all that bright on the.
I mean, yeah, his character, at least in that, because he does pop up again in the very last episode, so which is that's another nice little kind of tag on things. So, but, yeah, and like you mentioned before, it is nice to see Ein finally get some work and work. His specialties put to use.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I feel like I am not against where this episode is just because of how it falls in line with the other kind of spookier episodes. I wish though that this could have been tossed in a little earlier, but it's really hard to kind of shuffle it to where it might have worked better and where something else could have fit better. Like, I almost wonder if shuffling it to be where Black Dog Serenade is, I think, and then kind of shifting it later could have worked out a bit better, you know. It's just, yeah, there would be a lot of shuffling having to go on but I feel like this episode should have been a little bit earlier, or I would have liked it earlier. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be earlier. I think I don't know.
I like the spot partly because it doesn't focus on any particular character.
Okay.
And I like that it brings the tone down pretty quick for the following 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And brings gets rid of the kooky and brings in the spooky kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that helps, get us prepared for the final 3 episodes, which are a lot more somber. And I think that going to that psychological side of things, because the following episode after this, it sort of does, but it's the last two are far more aligned with sort of bringing that tone down quick. So, I mean, there's definitely a bit of goofiness to still come, but not a lot.
Right. The something else I also like is this duality of, the physical versus the spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And the spiritual, Londus's character, because of the situation that he's in, some sort of medical accident that has left him pretty much outside of like brain functioning, like comatose.
Right.
He's just stuck in this bed. But he replaces spirituality with just this ability to be in like the internet, quote unquote, in a way, right? It's the offering. It doesn't really. There's not a lot of push for, and this is kind of where Spike kind of calls him out on it. It's just like, oh, you're just a kid that's, what's that line he has about it? It's like, you're just like one about, if you're going to dream alone. And it's almost like he's pinging on something that's like something's not right. It's very undeveloped idea of what you have. And it's because he's a teenager who's been given a very bad hand to play.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So it's a very, very rough sort of episode in that regard for that. Like there's like the line where Londus mentions that TV, which is kind of interesting that just TV, because this could be easily extrapolated to more so mean the internet nowadays. But the bombardment with information to the point where people lose their sense of self.
For sure.
It's just, so it's that, and also the old man mentioned in the previous episode from the trio, he's dead. Like, he's one of the dead ones. I think. At least it looks like him.
It looks, I don't know if it's for sure, though.
Right, but I don't know. My headcanon makes that, I think it's him.
No, that's too bad.
I get that, but I mean, this does take place on Mars. Previous episode took place on Mars, and if he is in there, and there's that little continuity thread of things, so
I guess it could be.
Dun, dun, dun. It could be, but I could totally be wrong. But I don't know. Is there anything else in particular? I know I've kind of blabbed a whole lot.
No, I think, as I said, I really enjoy the flow of the episode, and just all of the moving bits and pieces are interesting, and everyone gets something to do in this episode as well, which is nice. It doesn't feel as if anybody's kind of left out, so that's really good. And then, it's just kind of interesting to see the visual device when Jet gets it, right, and like how we have a lot of these new VR style helmets you can wear and stuff. That's kind of.
I like the commercial with the kid like swinging his arms around, having so much fun playing.
Well, we get that goofy quote too. It's that one where it's supposed to be like a kid's show or something.
Oh, where
it says like prohibiting shows such as the one that you're watching right now.
But that was so like that was such a thing to do though, right? Like having that, it's just kind of like
yeah. No, it kind of reminds me of the like the They Live movie.
Okay,
have you seen that movie at all?
It's been forever, but I know if somebody tells me to put on the glasses,
right?
We got to brawl in the alleyway.
Yeah,
before we do that,
a 20-minute brawl in the alleyway, a bloody brawl with Keith David.
Chew bubblegum, kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yep, hell comes to Frogtown. That's one of his other silly movies with Billy Blanks, who ends up becoming an infomercial guy because he makes the Tybo tape. So it all comes back to
dun dun dun.
But
I'm sorry, where are we going with the they lives?
Well, just that idea of the commercialism in that movie, right? Like that's that the aliens or whatever the beings are controlling the humans as kind of a sheep, and that keeping that capitalistic flow of money and keeping your attention away while they're kind of siphoning the resources out of the planet. This kind of has a bit of that feel to it as well. Obviously not like the glasses thing is exactly the same, but just that sort of, draw your attention here, come follow this group, right? Leave all of your possessions behind and this and that. And I don't know, it's just kind of that, again, a bit of that psychological terror.
Right, but here's the thing. How different is this than the hippies off there in Bohemian Rhapsody episode? Like, how different is this, really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just kind of get lost in yourself and just kind of...
I guess that because it was that not more self-inflicted though, I guess, sort of?
Is it not self-inflicted all around? Like he's making the offer. He's just giving the offer. It's... I don't agree with it. But I mean, he's just giving another avenue for which people who are lost feel like, oh, this is the way to go.
I guess in that, if I'm thinking of that other episode though, they're led to something, of course, and they're like looking for something in that too. But in here, like all inhibition is taken away from them, right? Like not knowingly, I guess, right? They're joining with the idea like, oh, this is going to save me or this is going to better me or whatever. But then you've lost complete control, I guess, in that regard. In what was the episode about? Bohemian Rhapsody?
Bohemian Rhapsody?
They can continue to still choose and actively participate in the drugs and the lifestyle of living on the fringe or whatever. I guess would be the difference. Like, because once you're controlled in this world, you're completely controlled here.
Well, it's not that you're controlled. You've made the choice to give up control. Like, they're pretty upfront. Hey, you're getting rid of your physical body, and you're just going to be digital data. You're going to be the bleeps and the bloops.
I suppose.
So, like, to me, there's just a darker underpinning of it. But to me, it's the same message.
But I'm wondering, do these people really know what they're signing up for? I know you're right. They're they're relatively upfront, I guess, right? Like
he's outside about himself and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it is the shyster bit of, oh yes, I totally know I have the answer and stuff. I think it's the darkened version of, oh, I have the answer. I'm giving it to you. It's like, oh, the other side of that is, oh, I don't have the answer. We're just going to kind of kick it. And I think they're part of the, two sides of the same coin.
And but I guess I wondered, would more people want one versus the other?
I think so. I think they would rather just kick it than.
I would guess so, because at least let's kick the bucket. Because if you're so-called kicking it, I still think, I guess there's still a freedom of will to some degree, right? You could leave there if you had the willpower or decided to do so. Or saw the wrong thing happen, whereas at this point you're done. Like, you've made the choice, and once you've, as you said, basically become digital data, there's no escaping.
I get that. I guess it is still also a very difficult thing to get out of that, I would argue.
I would say it probably is, but
but
there still could be a moment where you're like, whoa.
Right. Yeah, I get it, because there's still the ability to make choices to exert your will in some sort of sense, ability, what have you.
Once Londos has you, you're within his grasp. You're
right.
Gone. You can't really, unless you have a data dog.
Yeah, right. You got a data dog to
bite you in the thigh.
Yeah. Oof. So, something else I also like to touch is that even though this is a very dark episode, that there's the glimmer of light that Edward has and hoping that the boy is able to have sweet dreams now.
Right.
And it's a very sweet thing to be like, oh, Jet's going on about how his dreams turn dark and stuff, and then Edward's like, oh, I hope he is able to have sweet dreams now. And I'm like, oh, that's a very sweet little message to kind of pepper in there.
It is, but of course, I think the realist side of our brains is Jet's right, though. This guy's now actively destroyed how many millions of lives and people.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that sort of number. It's just...
Well, even one is more
exactly.
than 1 too many. So does he deserve to have sweet dreams at that point? Like,
well,
I know he's been given a bad hand. You said
he's now he doesn't really get to play with anybody anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think that's when your prison is now you're completely isolated. Then it doesn't matter what kind of dreams you have.
No, I guess. But if you think of like Chessmaster Hex, though, it was just a game, and it didn't really harm somebody necessarily.
I don't know.
Not in the same fashion. Money. I suppose, but
for some people. So, is there anything?
They both die at the end.
Well, Londis doesn't.
Well, because he didn't exist.
Right. Well,
he kind of dies in that regard. Like
Londis dies.
The figment of it. Yeah, like
Rosny.
And because of Ed.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Anything digital, Ed's gonna be the pull the plug up.
Yeah. Ed. Yeah. Like keeps the life support. So Rosny's just kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's not too much you dislike or.
No, I did notice that some of the animation though, at times, particularly with Jet, looked kind of bad. Like he looks too soft, like a lot of, and then it would shift to, it would show Spike, and you'd see like all of the hard lines on the animation for Spike, like very detailed, and it would shift back to Jet, and it's just like soft lines, and it's like, oh, that's a little jarring to see some of the animation quality kind of dip, even though it was flipping characters within the same scene. So just a bit of a nitpick more than anything, but I just thought that was a little bit distracting in a few parts. Did you like Jet's whole bogus family story there?
Story that somehow that dude bought. That was a bit of a weak bit.
Just got to get that Ex Machina in there. I just got to move the plot along. And
it's like that. He could have just snuck it or sneaked in there. Like it just
use his bionic arm and punch him in the face or something. He's certainly not above that. Like he snapped the guy's neck.
He did.
Just a couple episodes before.
Just a couple.
Oh, I had to do it. It was about the feng shui.
Right.
It's ruining my balance.
I don't have really, like, outside of those kind of, I won't say nitpicks, but the quirks that a little weak. I did want to, there's the last little line there, because I like how this episode ends, because it's back to the Londis voice, even though he's gone and everything. Yeah. It's like the souls that God has given us are spirits, spirits which learn to swim in the immense network of infinity of space, is not the human body a mere shell of a form of existence, all too small and weak, with such vast reach in consciousness and potential. And then a TV goes off, and you're like, oh, it's just a really cool way to end the episode.
The creepy silhouettes walking across the screen, like zombies, basically.
Yeah,
trudging on,
and really, really, really wanting to hammer that point about, the physical is so you got to go beyond the physical, and I think there's a strong core of truth to that, but it's such a distorted interpretation, or I guess, what have you, of it, that I'm just kind of like, oh man.
Free your mind, Taylor.
Yeah. Free your mind, man.
Set it free.
So, yeah. Okay, then that, I guess Bounty then, unless there's something else.
Yeah, just quick looking at my notes. I can't recall if I had a specific quote here. I think, the one you just put there is quite a fitting wrap up. I don't think there was any specific kind of humorous ones that jump out at me at this point. So
outside of Big Shot Cancel and Judy, like, yeah, hear from my agent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay.
It's a pretty serious episode for the most part. So.
I'll also throw this out here. I love the fake name that Ed puts in. I think it's when
the two fake names.
Well, I can't remember the other one, but the one I think she gave with Jet, it's like Marshall Banana.
Something like that, yeah. But then the second one looked like a real name, so I thought, I wonder if that's one of the voice actors or something, or if that name has some significance.
I don't remember.
I didn't quite catch it because it was quite fast.
Ein hacking skills.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't it have been funny if they threw that thing on Ein and somehow Ein just totally disrupts the whole system or something, like Lon it backfires on Londa somehow or something.
Just completely.
Yeah. Sends a shockwave right up through and back to the other end.
So, Bounty. 38 million. It's a pretty hefty one. Is that the biggest one that we've had? Or was Mal's bigger?
It's, I can't recall. Was there not a 50 or 100 or something? I thought there was maybe 51 higher. But...
next, I know.
Right.
Sort of. Kind of.
Yeah. There's a 50 in there, but.
Right. And I'm trying to remember if there was a higher one. I think Mal's was. Actually, I think about it. Mal's was probably lower than this one.
Yeah, I don't recall. I haven't been keeping track on all the bounties.
Mal's is like 26, 27, 28, somewhere around there.
It would make sense for this one to be quite high.
Yeah, because this is pretty serious. So yeah, 28 million. Or 28 million. How about 38 million? Yeah, 38 million. This is one of my favorite episodes. I absolutely love this one. And so it makes me sad when I don't really hear anybody talk about it. Jokes aside, I'm going to plop it down. I'm going to give it 138 million. Bam. I love it.
All right. Well, I'll go even more random than you. I'm going to go 82.4 million longs. Why not?
Why not, indeed? Why not?
Yeah. I like this episode too a lot. It's a very thought-provoking. It's an interesting episode. It does feel somewhat slightly out of character in the sense of the flow of the series as a whole, but I think that's a good thing. And it really adds a unique layer to kind of still and put out a message, kind of, right? Like it's interesting to have something a bit thought-provoking, particularly coming after the Cowboy Funk was really a bit more of a nonsensical, just kind of supposed to be fun type episode. So it was interesting and tackling a pretty serious topic.
Yeah, cults of the physical, the spiritual, all that sort of fun stuff. Yeah, no, but you make a good point about this being a pretty good launch pad to let's start framing stuff. So we're going through these last 3 episodes. So, but all right, I guess with that, please let us know what you think. Maybe you don't really like this episode, and you can tell us why, and I will tell you you're wrong in a very nice way, or maybe I'll be mad
and try to get them to join your cult.
Yes. Exactly. Anyway, yeah, just let us know what you think. of episode 23, Brain Scratch. For Sushi Bee myself, thanks for listening, and see you, Space Cowboy.